Welcome back to Power Lunch. I'm Phil LeBeau, and we're tracking the growing number of legal cases, lawsuits that might be filed against Toyota in the wake of its unintended acceleration issue. Here's the number of cases that we know about at this point. This is according to Safety Research and Strategies, and according to that firm, 2,262 reported incidents, 815 crashes, but the two bottom numbers, pay attention to those, 314 injuries and 19 deaths. With that in mind, lawyers are setting up websites because this could just be the start. They're looking for victims around the country who might have been injured in a Toyota accident. And as a result, they're setting up these websites. They're lining up at the courthouse. One lawsuit we already know about, the family of a victim killed in a Toyota Avalon crash, is considering a lawsuit. That crash outside of Dallas the day after Christmas killed 4 people. Lawyers believe that when we start to see these suits go heading towards court, Toyota is likely to want to avoid the publicity of a high-profile trial.
A settlement helps to avoid the gory images and the photographs that would come out in an actual trial. So when you have a situation where there is a defect or where there's good evidence of a defect, then you're probably going to move to try to negotiate.
There are other cases, not just the kind involving injuries and death. There are class action lawsuits that are being filed against Toyota over the recalls. Attorneys are also planning suits over the drop in the residual value of Toyota models. One lawyer thinks Toyota could owe up to $800 per car in lost value.
There's nothing tenuous about this, and it's a significant damage that Toyota could have avoided by doing the right thing. They chose not to do the right thing. They chose to hide the evidence. There's indications now they've been hiding evidence, destroying documents, and that they have been not being straight with the American consumer, and it's time for them to come clean.
Finally, take a look at this stock chart, because on January 21st, when the recall was announced, the stock was at, I think, roughly $92, somewhere around there. It's fallen 14% since then, and there are lawsuits involved where people are saying, you know what? We want our money back because you were selling us stock on the belief of what this company was offering as a product, and you knew that there was a defective product out there. So, guys, this is some of what we're going to be seeing over the months and years to come. The total exposure to Toyota, hard to predict at this point.
Okay, Phil, stick around, because we're going to talk to a lawyer about that same thing. Let's bring in Steve Yerrid. He's a trial attorney in Florida, made a name for himself with a huge win against Big Tobacco. He's got broad experience with all sorts of liability cases. I think for a drunk driver case, he won $330 million in damages for one case. Steve, Toyota has said that fixing this problem in the cars is going to cost like $2 billion. How much extra should Toyota be budgeting for the legal fallout from cases like yours?
Good question, Dennis. And first, I don't have any cases against Toyota, but, you know, a company that makes $200 billion in revenue is looking at about $1 billion in exposure, and that's on a good day. This has been a public relations nightmare for a very large and well-known automobile manufacturer. It involves a number of brands, unlike the Ford rollover case, which involved really a one-vehicle scenario. Their underbelly in this case could be significant. But I do want to correct one thing. Your lead-in, and I've been on your show before, Dennis, your lead-in about the lawyers are circling ought to be titled Consumers Are Circling. The innocent public is circling because first there was denial, then a mitigation, attempted mitigation, there really wasn't fault, and now finally they are coming directly candid to the American public and other public forums in Europe and otherwise. And so this is good things are not about to happen to Toyota.
But Steve, who is the real class here? Is it, I believe there's been a couple dozen deaths tragically reported over the past decade. Is that the class? Is it injuries? Is it the 2,500 or so complaints? Or is it millions of car owners who've been inconvenienced by the headlines and the recall?
Well, as to the latter, I don't deal with those types of cases. As to the former, those catastrophically injured would probably be individual lawsuits, and that's where the unknown and the exposure truly lies. If you have a quadriplegic or a tragic death in a family and a known defect was in existence and there was no disclosure by the manufacturer, you may even have the application of punitive damages, which jacks a penalty and really takes it into the stratosphere of monetary consideration.
Okay, one last thing there. I'm sorry, Steve, but one last thing. Are you going to be taking on Toyota cases?
Well, if it's the right family and the right cause, and there's a good basis, then I will.
All right. Thanks very much for being with us, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Let's talk a little bit with